Hi, this is Hector Garcia, and I'm going to show you a technique that basically takes a table with crosstabs or in matrix format. In other words, there's going to be data in the x-axis and data in the right axis, in which when it's crossed, it already has some sort of value. But what I really want, or for whatever reason, what I really need is to convert a table that looks like this, that has a matrix, basically a y and an x-axis, and turn it into a list or a table that is flat. Okay, some people call it flat, some people call it list. So basically what I'm going to show you is how do we go about taking something that looks like this and convert it into something that looks like that. All right, so let's go through the steps. Let me go ahead and delete this sample tab. All right, so the way we do it is first we have to create a custom pivot table from this table that's already there. And then in that pivot table, we're gonna now use the data from it to create a secondary table with the same data in this list view or in this flat table view. So let's start by clicking the shortcut to do the pivot table wizard, where we're gonna click or hit Alt on the keyboard, and then D like dog, and then P like Paul. So Alt DP will open something called the pivot table wizard. And inside the pivot table wizard, we want to click on where it says multiple consolidation ranges. So we're going to click on multiple consolidation ranges, click on next, and then it's going to say, how many page fields do you want? Do you want to create a single, or do you want to create page fields manually? So we're going to select that second option, and then we're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask me, okay, tell me the range of the data that you want to pivot. So we're going to select this data that's here, right, that table. So we're going to click on the icon for the range, and then we're basically just going to select the data, okay? And then we can press enter, and it will basically take it. And then I have to now add it as a range. So I'm going to click on add. And I don't have to change the number of page fields, just add the range there like normal, and then hit finish. Perfect. So what that's going to do is going to create a new pivot table, as you see it here, with the data, and it's actually going to look pretty much identical. However, what you're going to see different on a pivot table is you're going to see grand totals. Now the trick is we're going to go ahead and double click on the grand total all the way to the right and all the way to the bottom. So once we double click that, Excel is going to drill down and create a new table, which is exactly what we wanted. And then I can just basically fix the labels myself. So that I do have to fix myself and add new labels. Size and amount. Perfect. And that's it. So that's how you convert a crosstabed or XY axis table with data into a flat view table or a list table. Now, I use QuickBooks quite a bit, and the reason why I had to learn this technique is because many a times my clients come to me with a table that looks like this, and they say, hey, I need to create an item list using the x-axis and the y-axis as attributes, and I want these to be sub-items. So I want to have an item called blue, and then have a sub-item called small, and then it be the price, and then an item called red, have a sub-item called medium, and it be the price, and so forth. So the first step was to create the flat view table. So this is like the reason why I even had to learn how to do this technique. So then I take this table, and then I have to know and understand how does QuickBooks import items. First of all, in QuickBooks, if I want to create sub-items, I have to create black the parent item first, and then large the sub-item. Let me show you real quick. So in the item list, if I was going to create these items manually, I would have to first create the parent item. So let's say, for example, I'm going to do a non-inventory part here called black, and I'll assign an account here, and then I'll hit OK. And then I would have to create the sub account. So it would be like the category. Let me go back here. So we have black, the style, and then small, the subcategory. So then I would have to manually go into new and then create, let's do a non-inventory part. We'll call it small, and then click on this little checkbox that says, this is a sub item of black, and I'll select an account here and hit OK. And that's basically the process to manually create all these items. However, what we want to do is obviously avoid creating them by hand and use an import tool that QuickBooks has to bring data from Excel into QuickBooks. However, we have to prepare this table to be import ready. So let me go ahead and delete this because I'm missing the parent items. So I'll show you a little technique on how I'm going to get the parent items in there. So let me hit delete and then go back into my table. And let me go ahead and just work from a fresh table. That way we're not confused by the other data that's there. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and do the same technique. However, I need to insert a line for each of the parents that don't have a subcategory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a line here. And here under the price, I'm just going to put zeros. That way, when it pivots, it just returns a zero value. I'll format this dollar as well, just so we kind of just follow the same formatting. But this is the key thing in here on this blank space. And this may be a little bit confusing. In this blank space, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and insert a blank. So I'm just going to like literally just hit space bar, right? I literally just hit space bar and enter and just insert a blank. So what I'm doing is instead of having that label blank, I'm actually having a character there that is a blank. And you see this is going to make tons of sense once we pivot this data. So again, let me select my data range and then I'll hit Alt D P and then click on multiple consolidation ranges, hit next, select I will create the page fields, next, select my data range, nothing changes, same thing we've discussed so far, hit finish. There's my table, but notice that now I have a totally blank one, and this is gonna make tons of sense now, because now when I click on the grand total to the rows and the columns, now it's gonna insert, see, one with a blank that I'm going to need to import into QuickBooks. And the really important part is that I have to sort by the column in the middle, which is the one that's going to have the size. In this case, I'm going to sort this alphabetically. And because these all have blanks, basically what you end up seeing there is just a blank. So that actually helps quite a bit for sorting. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that in QuickBooks, we have these three columns on the import screen. So I want to have my sub item of, I want to have my actual item name, and then I'm going to have my value. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, and I kind of have to do this in order. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in the parent items first with the values, which is a bunch of zeros. So I'm going to go into QuickBooks, and then I'm going to go into the list menu, add edit multiple list entries. And then I'm going to click on list, and I'll click on non-inventory parts. Let's say those are the type of parts that I'm bringing. Then I'm going to click on customize columns, and I want to make sure that what I have here is item name, nothing, and value, right? So by nothing, we can just have like a decoy column there, and I'll show you that one in a second. So let me get rid of whatever I can get rid of. And then I can bring this one here called full item name, and that one could be a decoy or even manufacturer's part number. It's just because we're inserting a blank. So let's choose that one. That one works fine. And then we're going to insert this one right between item name and sales price. Okay, so let me get rid of sub item off for now, just because we're not doing the sub items first. Again, as I mentioned, we're doing the parent items first, then the sub items. And you're going to see how that process works. So we have the item name. We have something that's just going to have a blank, and the sales price. And then I'll hit OK. Perfect. So now I can take my data. Well, let's just start with the parent, sorry. Hit copy. And then come in here and hit paste. And that's going to go ahead and bring in all the item names, put a blank on manufacturer's part number, sales price is 0 as intended. And of course, we have to make sure that we have an income account of some sort. And then I can just right click and hit copy down, and I can hit save changes, and that's going to save or bring all the parent items. Okay, so then when that is complete, and we already had that one in there from the last example. So when that is complete, the next thing we're going to do is now import the sub item. So let me go back into my back into the screen, and then let me go into Excel, and then I'm going to copy item. In this case, it would be parent item, actual item name, and value. So let me copy this data. So again, it's parent, actual item name, and value or amount. So let me go back into now importing non-inventory parts, and then I just have to replace these two first columns here. So I'm going to go to customize, and then we said our first one was our sub item off, and then our actual item name. So we're going to bring in this sub item off, get rid of manufacturer's part number, I don't need that, and then bring sub item off all the way to the top. So now I got parent item name, sub item name, sales price, hit OK. Now I can go here and paste, and there's all my parent names, there's all my sub items, there's all my prices. I can use the good old copy down technique to select the income account, cost of goods sold account, whatever I'm working on, and then click on save, and that should bring them all in. And I already had that one from the example before. And then when I go into my item list, we see everything was imported with the parent and with the sub item. Perfect. So now you saw basically the full circle there. You saw how to convert a table that's a matrix, Y and X axis with a value in the middle, into this flat format, and then an actual real application in which or when you will need to do that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel, hit like, add comments below on whatever videos you would like me to do in the future. Thank you.